Do you see some of the lock-in practices around software eroding in the cloud computing age? I mean, are things getting better?
I don't think there's an intention for lock-in, and I think the SaaS space is so new, and a lot of the folks haven't really thought about integration. I think if you look at the grid, the Salesforce folks probably have done better than most because they kind of were early tenants in the mall and were able to kind of reach out and integrate with some of the folks. So my expectation is over the next 18, 24 months, you're going to see more companies start to work on the native integrations and provide at least better service discovery or API discovery for developers, so that if you do need to hire somebody, it'll be a little bit easier than the pain you guys have gone through.
We're fairly new, we're 5 years old. But I think there's a real commercial imperative for us to start the journey with a strong focus on the API integration. We want to encourage and nurture a whole ecosystem of cloud providers, because it's interesting, we would speak to a new cloud provider that's doing something for a particular horizontal or vertical industry every week. And so what was important for us is that we can stick to building core accounting, but offer our customers enormous choice.
Are there standards in development in the software as a service world that answer some of the issues that Sam and I have raised today?
Yeah, I think it's interesting to hear what Chris was saying, because Atlassian's kind of started with on-premise products, and you know, we had a marketplace, and we've seen kind of this virality of people building on top of our core competencies and issue tracking and wikis, and built this whole community. And what we've kind of learned as we've been, seeing people build these integrations, you kind of look at, well, what are they trying to build in the first place? And as Sam kind of wrote in the research, is there's not a huge amount of technology base to build upon. You've got OAuth, so you can share some users. You have Open Social, which hasn't really really taken off. Like, there's a lot of promise about data integration, about UI integration, but it really hasn't taken off. And what we've noticed in terms of what people are trying to do with integrations is a couple really simple things. And what we've really tried to do is enable those simple integration points, which aren't really standards. They're almost like best practices or kind of techniques that people have kind of built over time. And for those, they kind of group into three main areas. The first one is just auth. Just make sure people can have one ID. That's step one. Step two for us was really about linking. We've seen a lot of people try to build integrations where they do data synchronization, and that's just a bad path. You're duplicating data. It's going to be long. It puts a lot of load on the infrastructure. So the technique is just link data. We have a lot of mechanisms to just link stuff together. And the third kind of completing piece is to enable workflows across those links. So do things like webhooks, some simple REST-based web technologies to actually encourage some activity across those links, and you have a pretty complete integration story with that. So that's kind of what we've been, they aren't really standards, but they're kind of techniques that we're really promoting that people use.
No worries. Tod, what about outside of the software as a service world, in the platform and infrastructure as a service worlds, what standards are key to portability of workloads in your kind of area?
Yes, so the key is, I think platform as a service is going to be used to do some of this integration. In fact, Gartner refers to some of the PaaS offerings as an iPaaS, or an integration platform, to help pull that forward. And the key there is really not to get tied down to a particular language or particular interface that requires a particular or specific cloud orientation, but allowing you to be as open as possible. So what we're seeing a lot of support around is some of the open source initiatives that can support multiple stacks to really enable people to decide how they want the integration to happen. And I agree completely with what you said about the data links, because I think the next big challenge, and I haven't read the report yet, is going to be in data and where it resides. If you have 10 different SaaS applications, you have to think about latency, because they're likely in 10 different data centers, and you don't want to be moving a bunch of data back and forth around the wire.